Good day, everyone. We are Group 6, and today we will be presenting an in-depth analysis of the adolescence of the Filipino by our national hero, Jose Rizal. This essay is one of Rizal's most important works because it challenges a long-standing stereotype about Filipinos and explains the deeper reasons behind it. Are Filipinos naturally lazy, or were they made to appear that way? This is the main question that Jose Rizal tries to answer in his essay Sobre la Indolencia de los Filipinos, which was published in 1890 in La Solidaridad. During that time, many Spanish writers accused Filipinos for being naturally lazy. Instead of simply denying this claim, Rizal provides a more detailed explanation. He admits that what appears to be indolence, or a lack of productivity, can be observed, but he strongly argues that it is not an inherent trait. Rather, it is something that developed because of the conditions Filipinos experience under colonial rule. In other words, Filipinos were not born lazy, they were shaped by their environment.
In this essay, Rizal provides a historical and social explanation of why indolence existed. He explains that before the arrival of the Spaniards, Filipinos were active and hardworking. They were engaged in agriculture, trade, and even international commerce with nearby countries. However, this level of productivity slowly declined during the Spanish colonial period. Rizal identifies several reasons for this decline. These include forced labor or polo y servicio, frequent wars and uprisings, and the government's failure to protect communities from pirate attacks. Because of these conditions, people became discouraged and focused only on survival rather than progress. He also criticizes the education system at that time, which was controlled by friars and focused more on obedience than critical thinking. This kind of education limited people's ability to grow and improve their situation. In the end, Rizal concludes that the solution to indolence is not punishment but reform, especially through freedom and proper education. Rizal's main argument is that indolence is not laziness but a reaction to an unfair system. He explains that people naturally lose motivation when they do not benefit from their hard work. For example, if a farmer knows that most of his harvest will be taken away through taxes or forced labor, he will only produce what is necessary to survive. Rizal also compares the past and present to strengthen his argument. He points out that Filipinos were once active and productive before colonization, which proves that they had the ability and energy to work hard. This shows that the problem is not the people themselves, but the environment they were placed in. Because of this, Rizal shifts the blame away from Filipinos and places it on the colonial system that removed their motivation, dignity, and opportunities.
Rizal clearly explains the different cause of indolence. The first and most important cause is government abuse and corruption. Spanish officials and friars imposed heavy taxes and monopolies, and they often took the results of Filipino labor. Because of this, people lost the motivation to work harder since they would not benefit from it.
The return of in-person classes seen as an opportunity to address the supposed learning poverty among Filipino students. A World Bank report...
The second cause is poor and limited education. Rizal criticizes the colonial educational system for being repetitive and restrictive. Instead of encouraging critical thinking, it trained people to simply follow orders, which prevented them from improving their situation. The third cause is the tropical climate. Rizal acknowledges that the heat can slow people down, but he emphasizes that this is only a minor factor. People in tropical countries naturally adjust to their pace to protect their health. To better understand the essay, it is important to look at Rizal's situation when he wrote it. Rizal wrote this during the propaganda movement while he was in Europe. The propaganda movement aimed to demand reforms from the Spanish government, such as equal rights, representation of the Spanish Cortes, and better governance. At that time, many Spaniards justified the rule by claiming that Filipinos were incapable and lazy. Rizal wrote this essay to challenge that idea and to defend the dignity of Filipinos. Through this work, he wanted to show that the real problem was not the people but the system that oppressed them. He also hoped that by exposing these issues, the Spanish government would implement reforms.
Rizal's essay reflects several important values. First is patriotism. He defends Filipinos from unfair criticism while still being honest about their situation. Second is justice. Rizal holds the Spanish government accountable for the conditions that led to indolence. Third is critical thinking. Instead of accepting stereotypes, Rizal uses history, logic, and evidence to explain the truth. Rizal's ideas are still very relevant in today's society. First, poverty and lack of opportunities continue to affect many Filipinos. What may seem like a lack of effort is often caused by low wages, unemployment, and limited access to resources. Second, the stereotype that Filipinos are lazy still exists today. However, this ignores the reality that many Filipinos work long hours, take multiple jobs, and even go abroad to support their families.
Kung may mas magandang oportunidad din lang po dito sa Pilipinas kaysa sa labas ng bansa, di mas mainam pa pong dito na lang tayo sa atin.
Third, education inequality remains a major issue. Not all students have access to quality education, especially in underfunded public schools or remote areas. This limits their opportunities for success. Just like in Rizal's time, these problems show that the system plays a big role in shaping people's behavior.
In conclusion, Rizal's Sobre la Indolencia de los Filipinos is both a defense of Filipinos and a criticism of the conditions that shaped society. He argues that what was called laziness was not something natural but something developed because of years of unfair rule, abuse, and weak education. Instead of blaming the people, he points to the system that limited their growth and opportunities. Rizal also highlights that Filipinos can be hardworking when given fair chances and support. His ideas were still important today because they remind us that progress depends not just on effort, but on building a fair system with equal access to education, opportunities, and justice.